In the vast, ink-washed landscapes where mountains kiss the clouds, stories are not just told, but whispered on the wind. Tonight, we drift into one such tale. A story painted with the soft glow of moonlight and the deep shadows of ancient forests. It is a world where beauty and sorrow dance hand in hand, where the living and the spectral worlds blur into a dream of longing and fate. This is the legend of a gentle scholar and a lonely ghost, a romance that transcends the boundaries of life and death, set against the ethereal backdrop of classical China. Our story begins with Nie Xiaoqian, a simple scholar traveling with nothing but his books and an honest heart. One stormy night, seeking shelter, he stumbles upon the desolate Lanruo temple. Locals whisper that this place is haunted, a home for wandering spirits and untold dangers. But Ning, seeing only a roof over his head, is untroubled by such tales. He is a man who believes in what he can see and touch, a man whose world is governed by logic and reason. He settles into a quiet room, the rain drumming a steady rhythm on the old temple tiles. As he lights a candle, its warm, flickering light pushes back the encroaching darkness. Outside, the wind howls through the decaying courtyards, carrying with it the scent of wet earth and ancient wood. The temple is vast and silent, a maze of crumbling walls and empty halls, each corner holding a secret from a forgotten time. Little does he know, this temple is not as empty as it seems. In its deepest, most secluded pavilion, another soul resides, waiting. In the heart of the temple grounds, hidden by a weeping willow and surrounded by a lotus pond, stands a secluded pavilion. Here, under the pale moonlight breaking through the storm clouds, sits a figure of unearthly beauty. She is Nie Xiaoqian, a spirit bound to this place, her past a tapestry of sorrow. Night after night, she plays her guqin, its melancholic notes weaving through the air like a lament. Her music is a call of loneliness, a beautiful, heartbreaking melody that speaks of a longing for a life she can no longer live and a freedom she can no longer grasp. She is a prisoner of her fate, her existence a delicate sad song played only for the moon and the silent stones of Lanruo. Tonight, however, her music finds an unexpected audience. The soulful notes drift from the pavilion, carried by the night breeze, reaching the ears of Nie Xiaoqian. Drawn by the hauntingly beautiful sound, he forgets the storm, forgets his weariness. The melody pulls him, a thread of silver in the dark, leading him through the winding corridors and rain-slicked courtyards of the temple. He follows the music, his heart captivated, his steps leading him closer and closer to the hidden pavilion. He is walking towards a meeting that will change everything. The last note lingers. A string snaps softly. Who is there? Forgive my intrusion. I am Nie Xiaoqian, a mere traveling scholar. Instead of fear, she saw only sincere admiration in his eyes. A flicker of surprise, perhaps even warmth, crossed her ethereal face. She returned his gesture with a slight, graceful nod. He took a hesitant step forward, his voice soft so as not to startle the quiet of the night. Her voice was like the whisper of wind through bamboo, carrying a chill that did not belong to the living world. He found himself drawn deeper into the mystery of this moonlit pavilion. He wasn't afraid. Instead, a strange sense of protectiveness bloomed in his chest. He wanted to shield that fragile light in her eyes from the encroaching darkness. As he spoke, the loneliness that had been his constant companion on his long journey began to melt away, replaced by a connection that defied logic and reason. They talked for what felt like an eternity, their words weaving a delicate tapestry in the cold air. They spoke of poetry and art, of distant mountains and forgotten songs. For the first time in a very long time, a genuine, though fleeting smile touched Xiaoqian's lips. It was a smile that held the ghost of a forgotten happiness. The moon began its descent, and the first hint of dawn threatened the eastern sky. A sudden urgency filled the air. She rose, her form already starting to seem less solid, more like mist and moonlight. The magic of the night was ending. He watched her go, a promise hanging unspoken between them. As her figure dissolved into the pre-dawn shadows, the first ray of sunlight touched the ancient temple, chasing away the ghosts of the night. The scholar could not sleep. The melody from the previous night lingered in his mind like a half-remembered dream. He told himself it was only curiosity, yet his heart knew better. He sat by the low table, the oil lamp flickering, casting dancing shadows across the ruined temple walls. An open book lay before him, its words unread. His gaze kept returning to the broken window, waiting, hoping. A soft breeze stirred the torn paper on the window frame. The shadows outside shifted, coalescing into a form. Slowly, she appeared, framed by the cold moonlight, her white silk fluttering like mist. She was almost translucent, yet impossibly beautiful. She watched him for a long moment before her voice, soft and carrying a faint echo, broke the silence. He turned quickly, his eyes lighting up with quiet surprise and a gentle warmth. "I was hoping the music would return," he said, his smile genuine. "But even without it, I am glad to see you again." She lowered her gaze, her fingers lightly touching the weathered window frame, but never quite crossing the threshold into the room. "Most men would have fled by now," she murmured. "They sense the chill, the wrongness. Why do you not run?" He stood and walked closer to the window, stopping a respectful distance away. The moonlight illuminated the space between them. "I feel the chill," he admitted. "But I also feel sorrow. Yours is heavier than the cold. If I leave now, who will listen when you wish to speak?" Her eyes shimmered, not with tears, but with something close to them. "I am not what you think," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I am bound, a thing of shadow and debt. If I stay near you too long, harm will follow." He looked at her steadily, his gaze unwavering. "Then tell me what binds you. Let me carry even a small part of it." A listener does not always need to solve. Sometimes it is enough to simply remain. A long silence settled between them, filled only by the whisper of the wind. Moonlight fell across both their faces, one mortal, one ethereal. Slowly, she reached out. Her hand passed through the night air toward him, but stopped just short of the window, her fingers trembling. "You speak," she whispered, her voice breaking slightly. "As if I still have a heart worth saving." "Every heart is worth saving," he replied softly. "Even one that believes it is already broken." He carefully removed his outer robe, the simple cloth of a scholar, and draped it gently over the windowsill. It rested there, a bridge of warmth between their two worlds, if nothing else. "Let this keep the night from being so cold." She stared at the robe. A single, perfect tear escaped and fell, catching the moonlight like a tiny falling star. She reached out again, and this time, her fingertips brushed the fabric. She closed her eyes for a fleeting moment, as if remembering a long-forgotten sensation, as if remembering what warmth felt like. Suddenly, her expression shifted from sorrow to fear. Her eyes opened wide with a sudden urgency. "Tomorrow night," she whispered quickly, pulling back. "Do not wait for me. Do not stay here. Please. I do not wish to become the reason you never leave this place." As she spoke, her form began to dissolve, fading into a swirl of silver mist. He stepped closer, his voice firm yet gentle. "I will wait. And if harm comes, let it come to me, not to you." Her last words were a fading echo as she vanished completely into the night. Foolish scholar. The robe remained on the sill, fluttering softly in the breeze. He reached out and touched it once, his fingers tracing the cloth where hers had been. Then he sat back down, his eyes fixed on the empty moonlit window. He did not know her name. He did not know her sin. Yet already, he refused to let her face the darkness alone. The third night arrived. He did not run. He waited, not out of bravery, but because leaving felt more impossible than staying. The shadows in Lanro Temple seemed to stretch longer, the moonlight a pale, cold silver. Nie Xiaoqian sat by the low table, his gaze fixed on the window. The robe he had left for her was still there, a silent invitation, untouched. He was calm, expectant. It wasn't about courage anymore. It was about a connection he couldn't explain and couldn't abandon. A sudden gust of wind rattled the room, and the door creaked open on its own. There she was. Nie Xiaoqian. Not at the window this time, but standing just inside, her white silk robes twisting as if caught in a storm only she could feel. Her face was ashen, her eyes wide with a terror that pierced the quiet room. "You must leave," she pleaded, her voice urgent on the verge of breaking. "Now, tonight, she is coming. The one who binds me. If you stay, your life ends here." Nie Xiaoqian rose slowly, his expression not of fear, but of deep concern for her. "Then tell me who she is," he said, his voice a steady anchor in the swirling chaos. "And tell me why you are so afraid, not for me but for yourself." Xiaoqian hesitated, her hands clenching at her sides as if holding back an agony too great to bear. For a moment, it seemed she would vanish again into the night. But she didn't. She lowered her head, her voice shrinking to a near whisper. "I was once human," she confessed, the words tasting like ancient dust. "A girl who loved too freely, trusted too deeply. They killed me, and after death, my bones were taken. Now I am a puppet." Her gaze lifted, filled with a despair that felt centuries old. "Every night I must lure men, feed their lives to her. If I refuse, my soul will be torn apart, scattered forever." The silence that followed was heavy, filled with the weight of her unending torment. Nie Xiaoqian took a careful step closer, his movements respectful, gentle. "How many nights?" he asked softly. "Have you carried this alone?" Her form trembled. "Too many," she whispered. "I have forgotten what it feels like to not be afraid." He saw it then, the profound loneliness that was a crueler prison than any curse. Slowly, deliberately, he reached out his hand. At first, his fingers passed right through her ethereal form, a reminder of the veil between their worlds. But he tried again, gently cupping her cold, translucent fingers between his warm palms. And then, a miracle. A soft, warm light began to glow where their hands met. A small sun pushing back against the temple's gloom. "Then tonight, you are not alone," he said, his voice quiet but firm with conviction. "I will not leave you to face her by yourself. Let me take you away from here. Let me find your resting place. Let me give you back what was stolen." Xiaoqian stared at their joined hands, at the impossible warmth spreading through her spectral fingers. Real tears, the first in a lifetime of death, traced paths down her cheeks, vanishing into motes of light as they fell. "Why? Would you do this for a ghost?" she whispered, her voice thick with disbelief. "For someone already dead?" He looked into her eyes, seeing not a specter but a soul in pain. "Because you are crying," he answered simply. "And no one should cry alone. Not even in death." Overwhelmed, she swayed forward, her forehead coming to rest against his chest, not quite touching, but her form flickering against his robe, a ghost of an embrace. "If you do this, you may never return home," she breathed, the warning a fragile whisper. "You may never pass the examinations. You may lose everything." A soft smile touched Nie Xiaoqian's lips. He looked down at the space where she was, feeling a connection more real than any worldly ambition. "I have already found something more important than any title," he replied. "Tomorrow, show me where you lie. I will bring you home." Home. The word hung in the air, a long-forgotten melody. She lifted her head, and for the first time, a small, fragile smile graced her lips, a flower blooming in a wasteland. Home. I have not heard that word in centuries. As if a spell had been broken, the wind died down. The harsh moonlight softened, becoming a gentle, silvery blanket. Xiaoqian's form began to fade, her edges dissolving into shimmering particles of light that drifted toward him before vanishing completely into the quiet air. A promise was made under the moon. Not of love, not yet. It was a promise of protection. A vow of shared humanity, refusing to let a single soul, living or dead, suffer in silence any longer. Nie Xiaoqian stood alone once more, his gaze falling to his open palm, where the memory of her touch still lingered like faint, impossible warmth. At first light, he came to the place she had described. It wasn't a grand tomb, nor did it bear a name. There was only silence, and the heavy weight of a promise he had made. He knelt down, carefully brushing away the damp leaves and loose earth. Beneath them, half buried, was a small, cracked stone urn. This was it, all that was left of her in this world. With the utmost care, he lifted the urn, cradling it against his chest as if it were the most precious treasure on earth. As he held it, a faint shimmer appeared beside him. It was her, Nie Xiaoqian, her translucent form watching him with an almost unbearable quietness. "Be careful," she whispered, her voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. "It's all that remains of me." He offered a gentle, reassuring smile. "Then I will carry it as carefully as I would carry you." He wrapped the urn securely in his outer robe, tied it with a steady hand, and stood. Above them, a lone crow cawed once before taking flight, as if signaling the start of their journey. A cold, unnatural wind began to rise. The path away from the temple was shrouded in a thick, eerie mist. Dark shadows danced behind the gnarled trees, and black fog swirled around his feet, clinging to him like a shroud. The wind tore at his clothes, a malevolent force trying to push him back. Beside him, Nie Xiaoqian's form flickered anxiously. "She knows!" she cried, her voice filled with urgency. "The tree demon! She's coming! You have to leave me here, run! Save yourself!" But Nie Xiaoqian kept walking, his steps steady, his grip on the wrapped urn tightening. "I'd promised to bring you home," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I will not break that promise." The mist began to writhe and thicken, forming claw-like shapes that lashed out, trying to tear the urn from his grasp. He stumbled, almost falling, but instinctively shielded the urn with his own body, taking the brunt of the spectral attack. Nie Xiaoqian cried out in despair, her spirit form trying to block the shadows, only to be pushed back, flickering wildly. "Please," she begged, tears now evident in her voice, "don't die for me. I'm not worth it." Breathing heavily, his body aching, he looked forward with unwavering resolve. "You are worth every step, every breath. Just hold on, we're almost there." He forced himself forward, one painful step at a time. The shadows howled in frustration, but it seemed his quiet, unyielding determination formed a faint barrier they could not fully breach. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the mist cleared. He had emerged from the forest. Before him was a small, humble courtyard, attached to a simple house. Sunlight, soft and welcoming, filtered down through the leaves. He walked to a quiet corner beside a study, a place where the morning sun fell gently. He knelt once more, and with his bare hands, he dug a small grave. He carefully placed the urn inside, and beside it, he planted a young bamboo shoot, a symbol of new life and resilience. With his knife, he carved a simple wooden tablet, Tomb of Nie Xiaoqian. He lit 3 sticks of incense, placing them in the earth before bowing deeply. "You have a home now," he said quietly, his voice full of warmth. "No more cold nights. No more commands from another. Rest here, and if you wish, perhaps you can play your chin for me again someday." Nie Xiaoqian's form appeared, kneeling beside the new grave. She reached out a hesitant hand, and this time, her fingers were able to touch the wooden tablet he had carved for her. A single sparkling tear fell from her eye, vanishing as it hit the ground. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice overflowing with an emotion he had never heard from her before. I have a place to belong." The sunlight grew warmer, and the bamboo leaves rustled in the gentle breeze, sounding almost like the distant, soft notes of a chin. Ning sat beside the small grave, watching the fragrant incense smoke curl and rise towards the heavens. The perilous journey was over, but their story, it was only just beginning to. She had a home now, a quiet place under the sun and the moon. But peace for one soul meant farewell for 2 hearts. She could feel her time was short. The karma that bound her to the mortal world was fading, and soon, she would be released. The morning light was gentle, bathing the small courtyard in a soft golden glow. Beside the new grave, where young bamboo swayed, she materialized, more translucent than ever, her white silk dress almost dissolving into the air. He was there, just as she knew he would be, sitting quietly, his gaze fixed on the simple wooden tablet bearing her name. She sat beside him, so close their shoulders might have touched, if she were still solid. Her voice was like a distant breeze, a whisper from a world he could not follow. "My soul is free now," she said, a faint bittersweet smile on her lips. "The chains are broken. I can go, to be reborn." He turned to her, his eyes soft, but a quiet sorrow lingered within them. "Then you will live again," he replied gently. "Laugh again, play your chin again." She nodded, the movement barely perceptible. "Yes," she whispered, "but I will carry this memory with me." The memory of a scholar who refused to let a ghost remain in darkness. They sat in a comfortable silence, the world around them fading away until it was just the two of them. The rustle of bamboo leaves sounded faintly like the strings of her chin, a melody only they could hear. Slowly, she reached out her hand. It passed through his, as it always had, but this time, a soft, warm glow lingered where they almost touched, a phantom warmth against his skin. "If one day," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "you meet a girl who smiles too much, who plays the chin when no one is listening, who looks at the moon with quiet longing, will you recognize me?" His voice was steady, a rock in the swirling sea of their parting, his eyes shining with unshed tears. "I will," he promised. "I will look for you in every gentle smile, in every note of music carried by the wind. And when I find you, I will say, I have been waiting." A single tear escaped her eye, but it didn't fall. Instead, it turned into a tiny spark of light and floated upward. Her form began to brighten, particles of silver light rising from her like 1,000 fireflies taking flight into the dawn. "Then live well, Nie Xiaoqian," she whispered, her voice fading with her form. "Live long enough for us to meet again." She leaned forward, and her forehead brushed his in the lightest, most ethereal touch. A ghost of a kiss, a final silent promise. "And you," he whispered back, his voice thick with emotion. "Be happy in your next life. Be free. I will find you." And then she smiled. A real, radiant smile. The first one he had ever seen without a trace of sorrow. She dissolved completely, becoming countless points of silver light. They circled around him once, a final gentle caress on his face. His hands, his hair, before drifting up toward the sky, blending seamlessly with the morning sun. The bamboo swayed, releasing a single, clear note that hung in the air like the final chord of a song. Years passed. The scholar grew older, silver threads weaving through his dark hair. He still sat in the courtyard, the bamboo now grown tall and graceful, the small grave well tended with blooming flowers. One morning, a young woman in a simple white dress passed by on the path outside, a chin cradled in her arms. She paused, her steps faltering as she glanced toward the courtyard. For the briefest of moments, their eyes met across the distance. She smiled, a warm, familiar smile, touched with a hint of shyness. He looked back, and a soft, knowing smile bloomed on his own face. Some loves end in parting. Some loves simply wait. Across lifetimes, under the same moon. And that's a wrap on another beautiful love story. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing in this special moment. Isn't it amazing how two paths can cross and create something so magical? Every love story is a unique journey, filled with its own twists, turns, and unforgettable moments. We believe every story deserves to be told and celebrated. If you were touched by this story, let us know in the comments below. We absolutely love reading your thoughts and hearing about your own experiences with love. Remember, love is all around us in the grand gestures and the quiet moments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more tales of romance and connection. We can't wait to share another story with you soon. Until next time, keep your hearts open. Thanks for watching.